Welcome to the Live from South College podcast. I'm your host, Kathleen Stockham. The Live from South College podcast is your source for all South College activity, including new student information, deep dives into our 100+ programs and concentration, tools of the trade, and even live on location from all of our campuses. Great interviews with faculty, staff, deans, and hear from South College students and alumni in their own words. From certificates all the way to doctoral degrees, catch up with Live from South College for the lighter side of helping your dreams find direction. For all of our nursing students at all levels and at all campuses, we have a very special episode today, and that's all about post graduation and all that you need to do to land that great job. My guest today is the one that everyone wants to know and wants to impress, who sits at the very top for one of the largest healthcare systems in the Southeast. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome Senior Vice President and Chief Nursing Officer for Covenant Health, Debbi Honey. Hello, Debbi.
Good morning. How are you?
I am fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. I am so excited. I have been waiting for this interview for some time. We really appreciate you being here. And I know that our students will be, of course, hanging on your every word on tips and suggestions you have. So let's get started. Tell us about your role with Covenant Health as Chief Nursing Officer and all that you oversee.
Well, in my role as the Chief Nursing Officer for Covenant Health, I'm responsible for nursing practice across all of our entities, across the entire enterprise. And that includes all the acute care hospitals, our doctors' offices and practices, home health, hospice, everything that anywhere where there is a licensed nurse, I'm responsible for that practice.
Nice, nice. So again, for my listeners, this is the person you want to impress because she is over it all. So nursing is a very large part of our student mix across all 10 of our campuses in 7 states, and it's our most popular program at the associate, bachelor, master, and doctoral level. What do you see as the future of nursing from where you sit?
I believe nursing is at the forefront of some really exciting things moving forward. After we came through the COVID time and we saw a decrease in enrollments and we saw a lot of despair, what I think we're starting to see is increased enrollment, increased excitement. And I also see on the practice side, coming into the hospitals or whatever settings you come into, looking at how do we change our practices to be more flexible, using technology better than we ever had before, using artificial intelligence appropriately to facilitate our workflow. I think from the future of nursing, we're at the forefront of some exciting frontiers.
Oh, that sounds great. I know AI, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes, but AI is definitely shaking things up on our side and pretty much in every vertical and in every job there is out there. And so I'm really excited to hear that Covenant is really embracing that because it's definitely where everything is going. And I think it's really exciting that there is a hunger for it, and that's awesome. For these students, what are your tips for post NCLEX or post master's licensure to get out there and interview? And what should these new grads be prepared for?
Well, first of all, I would say, you asked me about post NCLEX and post masters. I would invite them to start their exploration before they even graduate. We like to start talking to our potential hires in their senior year, their final semester, because that's when they get the opportunity to get more information about where they might potentially want to be.
Mhm.
But getting ready for interviews, I advise people do your research, understand the organization that you're applying to. Is it really the same mission and vision that you aspire to? Do you think it's going to be a fit? And then to be prepared, understand, yourself, know what your strengths are, be able to answer questions about your future. What are your strengths? Where do you feel your opportunities are? Self reflect so that you can interview well when you do your interview.
Yeah, That sounds really good. And I know for some of these students, obviously they get that opportunity during the clinical phase and working with different preceptors in different settings. Is it appropriate in your mind for these students to kind of feel those situations out and maybe ask about employment opportunities, or is that not appropriate?
It's absolutely appropriate. And, we assign preceptors based on availability, and it may be in a spot, a medical surgical unit, perhaps.
Mhm.
But a student has an interest in ICU. We'll ask. We'll let them go shadow for a few hours in the ICU or in the emergency room. So I want students to go where they want to go. I don't
Yeah.
want them to be placed in a place where they don't want to be.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So, Covenant Health is a really great example of opportunities that are outside of just the hospital setting for nurses at all levels. Specifically, what directions can these new nurses go?
But that's a great question because, I've had new grads who have come out who say, I want to do home health, for example. Well, you think about that in home health, it's independent practice of a single nurse going into homes, and it's going to be the first time a student has seen A, B, C, or D. Sometimes that's not the appropriate place for a new grad to go because they don't have the broader experience of seeing multiple patients with multiple conditions. And even in a physician's office, they may be the only nurse in the office, so they don't have that backup. So sometimes some of those settings are not appropriate, but that's pretty much it. Everything else a new grad can
Yeah.
explore and be hired into.
Yeah, that helps a lot because I interview a lot of students for the podcast and they're, very, very excited and they're dreaming about the ER or the ICU. I hear L&D quite a bit. That's labor and delivery, by the way, for my listeners who weren't sure. But definitely hear a lot about labor and delivery roles once they pass their NCLEX. But what advice do you have for them as it relates to assessing their personality and their work styles versus the areas of the hospital and the needs of the hospital that are very different from each other?
Well, you gave 3 examples of 3 very different areas, right? So ER is very episodic care. You don't really build relationships with patients because I take care of a patient on a shift. I come back the next day, they're not there. So
Mhm.
it is a very episodic. ICU is longer care. It's critical care. So these are very, very sick patients. In labor and delivery, you are spending time with families, mothers and families who are having hopefully 99.9% of the time the best day of their life. But it's very intense as well. So again, these roles are all different. And you do have to understand where you come from, the new nurse. Do you like the exciting, nonstop, you know, adrenaline rush, or do you like the more, calm, you know, task scheduled kind of things? So
Mhm.
you got to your point, you have to understand yourself, and that's why I again say shadowing and going into these areas to see how it feels to you is an important part of the decision making.
Yeah, I completely agree. Before we started recording, I mentioned to you that my daughter is an ER nurse and
Hmm.
it's really suited to her personality. She's a type A personality. She was a Division 1 college athlete, very, very organized, very scheduled, very procedural, and definitely fuels on that adrenaline. That's just how she operates. And so I've been able to have a front row seat in watching someone really match their personality and work style into an environment where they thrive and they love it and it's just constant every day, all day. But what if there is a mismatch where someone maybe who doesn't necessarily have that same personality does get into a place like an ER and maybe they're more suited for perhaps another area? How do they handle that when there's a mismatch? Is that caught in the interview process or is that possible after onboarding 3, 4, 5 months? Maybe it's like, "Ooh, wait a minute, maybe this isn't for you." How does that typically get handled?
I look at a new nurse as a jewel. They are a gift to us, and we have to make sure that we take care of our jewel, right?
Mhm.
So there are mismatches, and they do happen. And in that case, we need to then figure out where is the right place for that nurse.
Mhm,
In a previous organization I worked, I had a nurse that was on a very, very busy cardiac floor, and that's where she wanted to be, and I knew that that was not the right place for her, but she wanted to do it. 4 months into it, it was not the right fit, and that's been many years ago, and is a hospice nurse that she went into that role about 15 years ago, and that was
mhm.
the right role for her. So we need to then, like, understand where they might fit better and help transition there. It's not a failure at all. It's
Mhm.
just that's not the nursing I wanted or that's my fit and that I want to do. So we do have processes to make sure that we get people in the right places for them to be successful.
Yeah, that is comforting to hear because again, for a lot of these students, they're eager, they're excited, brand new licensure in their hands, they're ready to go tackle that first job. But it seems to me like they really need to know their personality and obviously finding the right organization, the right healthcare system that's going to say, "Wait, you know what? We think you might fit better maybe over here somewhere." So that's comforting to hear. So, there are so many new challenges to nurses at all levels, and it relates to complex patient care and even patients using AI to, well, let's call it self diagnose sometimes. What do you think about that?
It happens every day, and it happens within us. We all do this. I'm going to go to AI and ask some questions before I call my doctor, so maybe I'll be more informed. So, we have to take this with a grain of salt, understanding that it's machine learning, and it depends which AI platform they're using. It can be garbage in, garbage out, or it can be something that's significantly good. We understand patients come in with their phones and show us what's wrong with them, and of course, it's something totally different. But we're respectful of it. But when we think about AI, using AI in the hospital, our current medical record system, and we use Oracle, they are implementing some AI tools within the, I'm so excited about it, within the nursing component of our charting, that instead of me doing click after click after click to look when did the patient get their last pain medicine, we're going to be able to ask the computer, tell me when Kathleen had her last pain medicine and what was her pain score at that time. It's
Mm,
gonna pop that up in front of me. It's gonna take minutes and hours off nursing charting
yeah.
using AI. So we're in the beta test and we'll probably start this before the new grads come out in May. So we're very, very excited about how this will help our nurses' workflow. So we are looking at AI distinctly. I know that's more than what your question was, but it I think AI is here to stay and we just have to learn how to manage it.
Y-
And
Yeah.
emphasize how good it can be.
Yeah, I love that. It's interesting. Actually, all of our campuses, we use the simulated patients where you can program a simulated mannequin to exhibit certain symptoms. It gives birth, it dies, it, has
Mhm.
all of these things. We have one in Asheville that is actually AI powered. So when you ask the simulated patient a question, it will pull from the cloud different answers. So it's not somebody hanging out behind a two-way mirror, programming and prompting the sim to have certain responses, but it actually pulls in real time from the cloud so that it's pretty much a grab bag of different things that the simulated patient will present with, which is amazing. I've had an opportunity to see this in action. It's a little creepy. Gotta be honest. But they're actually really exciting, to watch because, again, these students have a real opportunity to get some unique and different hands-on experience that's not just the same programmed, pieces over and over, and I 100% agree with you. AI is here to stay. We are looking and embracing so many different directions as an institution, and it's actually really exciting and a little scary at the same time of the frontierism that's happening in that area. So let's talk about you for a minute. What has been your journey from becoming a nurse to where you are now?
I think, the word you used, journey, was absolutely the right one. My career has been what I call not a career ladder, but a jungle gym, because it's gone all different kinds of directions. I'm a diploma graduate, initial licensure. I went to Baptist in Memphis, and then I worked in the emergency room and critical care, and that's what my clinical background was. I've worked in education, I've worked in HR, and most of my career, I worked in Chattanooga at one of the hospitals in Chattanooga, and I've worked at New York University as well. But when I was in Chattanooga, I was part of a big Catholic healthcare system, and I took a role as vice president for clinical operations at a national Catholic system based in Denver. We had 88 hospitals in 22 states. So I traveled all over the country and did performance improvement, nursing operations.
That's great. And I love the fact that you actually have experience in HR. So you've actually been a recruiter who has been
Yes.
hands-on in hiring, yes?
Yes, I have been. That was in our last, I'm gonna use air quote, nursing shortage in the early '90s. I thought that was a nursing shortage back then, but that was nothing compared to today. And then I also had my own consulting company and did interim chief nursing, opportunities in New Mexico and Washington, DC. And then when this job came open 8 years ago, I went, "Oh, wow. This is the job I really want." And it
Mhm.
has been an absolute pleasure being at Covenant Health.
Oh, that's awesome. See, we like to hear that. So, here's an interesting question. We just launched a really exciting Doctor of Nursing Practitioner program in our CBE modality, which means that a working nurse can complete their doctoral degree on their own time. This program is aimed at master's level nurses who are looking to move up into executive roles like yours or research roles. Do you see on your level a growing need for nurses at the executive level of healthcare systems?
Well, I am a fellow of the American Organization of Nursing Leaders, and I teach in their certification program for nurse executives. And I'm always looking for nurses with that type of experience. We do need to continue to grow the competencies and the skill sets for people to be able to step into executive roles at facility levels and at the healthcare system level. I think that we do have an opportunity for people to get more education, and I think being able to do it on your own time, that's what really the disconnect is the time commitment plus somebody that may be a nursing director or have and a family, they just can't commit to big blocks of time. Being able to do it on their own time, I think, will be very advantageous to help get more nurses doctorally prepared.
Yeah, we agree. I mean, it's really interesting. The program has proven to be very popular so far. And again, we talk a lot about the CBE format on the podcast, and it's truly incredible what you can do. And again, it's asynchronous. You go at your speed. If you need to take a week off or you're tired and you just don't want to deal with it, you can do that. And you pick back up when you're ready to go. And it's a really unique subscription program. And I could talk about that program all day. It's actually pretty awesome. But we also have an exciting pathway to Doctor of Nurse Practitioner, Nurse Anesthesia. And that is a huge program. I've actually been in there. The equipment that they have in those labs here at South College at our Parkside campus is truly incredible. How important is the nurse anesthetist in the hospital and healthcare setting, in your opinion?
Well, they're one of the linchpins for us to be able to provide surgical services in all of our settings. And oh, by the way, we do have students from South College and doing their clinicals here
Yeah.
across Covenant. Yes. So, but no, anesthesia is critically important as we look at the models that most hospitals have. They do have physicians, anesthesiologists that supervise, but they supervise 2 to 3 to 4. So we need nurse anesthetists in every operating room, and we don't have enough.
Yeah, that we agree, and it's amazing. I've had a chance to also interview these students. We've done some videos. We've done quite a bit with the faculty on the nurse anesthetist side. And again, these students are incredible. They are very serious. They are very good at what they do, and we've been really, really proud of watching our graduates get out there and do a lot and do more. And then hopefully, as we go along, that program will continue to grow and continue to flourish because it's definitely one that if you are looking and if you are focused, it's an awesome program. So, What is your parting advice to all of our nursing students at all levels about landing that great job and rising in the ranks as you did?
Well, first of all, landing the great job. I think you have to be professional, on time, understand who you're talking to, um, eye contact, professionally dressed. We have students that come in that are late. They aren't prepared answering questions. Practice with somebody. Have somebody interview you. I know you all do some simulations in
Mhm.
most schools, so right, but and take those seriously because when you step up to that first person you're going to interview with, you're sometimes you get stage fright, and that's not what we want to happen. But
Mhm.
the biggest thing is be prepared, be timely, and then rising in the ranks. One thing that I did across my career is I never said no. If it's legal, ethical, and moral, I don't say no. So at one point, we were going to apply for a big grant at the National Cancer Institute when I was at the Catholic system. I didn't know anything about oncology, but they asked me if I would be willing to help be the executive lead on the grant. I said, sure. Well, we got the grant and we were able to spread that to 19 hospitals. And then I learned a lot more about oncology. So be curious and be open to different things and not just what I'm currently doing today.
Yeah, I love that. That's actually great advice across the board for pretty much all of our graduates is
Yes.
be willing to jump in and figure it out. I love that. All right. For students who are interested in learning more about the Covenant Health System and your opportunities, what do you recommend?
Well, they can always go to our website and get in that way. We're also getting ready to launch a nursing page that's on going to be on Covenant Health that'll have more direct access to nursing directors and get real live interaction. And we hope that's going to be live the first of the year.
Yeah, that's actually really smart going back to the AI piece because that's how you get that maximum crawlability within all of these AI chat applets is to have these kind of singular pages. And here I am giving you website advice, but
Yeah, exactly.
sorry, had to put the marketing hat on for just a moment. So let me ask you, you have a really interesting background. So what do you do in your spare time if you have any?
I do have spare time. Love traveling and spending time with my husband and family. We like to go on adventures. I also am an avid reader. I love to read. And the other thing, if you walk into my office, I do needlepoint, and I have 8 needlepoint hearts that I have done that are hung in my office. The one I'm working on now is a bow with flowers wreath needlepoint, and that's what I do.
Oh, I love that, and it's amazing. I remember I did a lot of needlepoint as a teenager growing up. It was mostly just a way to just stay occupied. I was an athlete, but it was a great way to sort of decompress and focus on something else. I love that. That's amazing. I had no idea. So I have a question that I ask all of my podcast guests. So you're up next. What kind of student were you in school?
That's a great question. So, guess I was a pretty good student. Again, I went to Baptist in Memphis, and it was a private college, and you couldn't be married. You had to live in the dorm, all those things. And I was voted most likely to succeed, and I got the top clinical award from the board of
I'm not
directors.
surprised. That's
Yep.
amazing.
Yeah.
Was there any particular subject within obviously at Baptist in Memphis that you were kind of when I interview students, they're in physics and they're like, "Oh god, I hate physics," or they're struggling with anatomy and physiology. Was there any particular subject that you were kind of like, "Oh god, not that."
I didn't know whether I was going to get out of statistics when I went back for my bachelor's degree. And so what I did, I went to University of Tennessee Chattanooga for my bachelor's. What I did was I took it in summer school. So I had to go every day, 5 weeks. Because if I thought I knew me, that if I went a week between classes, I wouldn't remember what happened last week.
Mhm.
So for something that was so tough for me, I concentrated it so I could get the pain over sooner.
Ooh, smart. Smart. I like that. Well, for the record, statistics was no fun for me either. So there you go. I don't think it's fun for anybody, but anyway. Well, this has been a complete masterclass on all the areas a new grad needs to prepare to land that right job for them and what to expect in those first few years. And thank you so much to my guests. You have heard it from the top. I want to thank my very special guest, Senior Vice President and Chief Nursing Officer for Covenant Health, Debbi Honey.
Thank you so much.
Oh, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here. Coming up after the break, a former hospital CNO is also on hand for your questions and an even deeper view of what you can do now to prepare for your future. Stick around. We'll be right back.
When you start your new career path at South College, you'll join students from different walks of life at varying stages in their lives. Many students are going back to school to finish degrees, while others are pursuing elevated education that will help them improve their potential in their current roles or for chasing a new direction. South College offers over 100 programs and concentrations with specialized focus on associate, bachelor's, master's, educational specialist, and doctoral degrees in healthcare, business, technology, education, and legal studies. We are regularly developing new academic programs based on local, regional, and national trends. Each curriculum is designed to promote development of knowledge and skills in the associated discipline as we challenge and support our students. South College is committed to providing intellectual, social, and professional development to a diverse student body. With locations in Knoxville, Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee, Atlanta, Georgia, Asheville, North Carolina, Orlando, Florida, Indianapolis, Indiana, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Dallas, Texas, and Marietta, Georgia, as well as programs delivered through Competency-Based Education, or CBE, and online. We're here with you every step of the way, starting with the admissions process. To find out more, visit South College at south.edu. South College, where dreams find direction.
Welcome back. You just heard from a chief nursing officer of a major healthcare system. Now, hear from a former CNO of a very busy major metro hospital who has seen it all. My next guest is South College Executive Vice President of Nursing Operations, April Mount. Hi, April.
Hello, how is everyone doing?
Everybody's good on this end. Well, I mean, it's just me, so I'm assuming everybody else is okay. I
Hopefully.
I am so glad you're here. You sat as the top nurse in a major downtown metro hospital, and you've definitely seen it all. Now, bringing all of that expertise to South College. So let's get into this and the jump to the EDU space as a nursing executive. Tell us about that jump.
Yeah, so I have had the privilege to work at two major wonderful health systems, along with my experience with Joint Commission. And, with my first role and when I served as the chief nursing officer in Atlanta at Emory University, it really kind of propelled my exposure to the academic world. So I really got a taste at that point what it meant to develop not only the nursing profession, but to contribute it to the community in which I served for my hospital. And so I would say that each brought such a variety of experience in how I got to where I am today. I am excited. I've also had experience with just the development of nursing when I served as a professional practice director at Wellstar Health System, and I had the honor to really serve, with over 250 externs as they were preparing to enter the workforce. And so, I throughout my career, I've had bits and pieces of the development of nursing, and so I'm really excited to join South College because we're really transforming the nursing student to be prepared for transition to practice. And so I'm just excited to be a part of that and really shaping the future of nursing as we move forward.
Yeah, that's awesome. And nursing, of course, as all my listeners know, is a very large part of our student mix across 10 campuses in 7 states. And it's our most popular program at the associate, bachelor, master, and doctoral level. So, what do you see as the future of nursing from where you sit?
Oh, the future of nursing is growth, right? So just recently it came out that the NCSVN noted that 40% of the workforce will leave by 2029. So that's over 1.6 million nurses.
Wow.
So we already are in a shortage in various parts of the country. So I feel like the demand for nursing, not only at the BSN, ASN, LPN level, but also at the graduate level, will be a constant demand to meet the needs of our aging population. We know that the baby boomers are living longer because of the advancement of healthcare, and also being able just to be more, they're just more active. Boomers, we have done a really good job with keeping people alive longer with our healthcare services across the United States, but also they're just more active. And so with that, there comes a higher demand. And so we know that whether it be in the acute care setting or in an outpatient setting, there is going to be a demand throughout the United States of nurses to meet that need.
Yeah, that's great. And I agree with you. It's really interesting. If you take a look at your own Facebook feed, I am pretty much inundated with different groups and advertising that's all about making healthier choices, making non pharmaceutical choices for wellness and taking supplements. So, I mean, there's definitely a movement out there about paying more attention to your health and to your weight and movement and exercise and all of those things. And I think it's great. But on the other hand, to your point, there is a need in healthcare and there's definitely an outcry for more and more nurses. And I feel like that's the answer that we have to all of that, which I think is great. And I agree with you. So for these students, what
Mhm.
tips for post NCLEX, which was they've passed their licensure exam, or the post master's licensure to get out there and interview? What tips do you have for them to interview for that first job? And what should these graduates be prepared for?
This is such a great question, and I get this asked a lot. I think the biggest thing is to be prepared. I think to be open minded and to be prepared. I feel like you go into it thinking you have this vision of what you want to do, right? And so in the graduate level, there is going to be more of a specific focus. But especially as an undergraduate graduating nurse, and I'll give it myself an example. I really thought I was going to be an L&D nurse for the rest of my life, right? So I got into it, and within a year I realized that that was not the right fit for me. I loved it, but I wanted diversity on patients. And so I actually moved into the med surg space and then further into critical care. And so that's just an example of I was open to it. I had this vision that I wanted to be this L&D nurse, but got into it and realized maybe there's something beyond that I want to use, that I had a higher talent here, that I want to be able to share that experience to care for those types of patients. And so being open-minded, being prepared, when you go into, any type of organization and you're looking to seek employment, you need to understand what you're walking into. You need to do your research. You need to understand what type of culture do they have, because it's about fit, right? At this point, you've earned the skills. It's about how you're going to be able to fit to be your best self, to be able to present every day and make sure that you are giving everything you can to that organization, so therefore the patients can contribute to that. So I think it's about fit when it comes to that, but I think it's being informed, and you've got to understand what you're walking into so you know how to navigate and contribute your best to that workforce.
Into my next question, and you've already kind of touched on it a little bit. I asked this of my other guest just earlier, but I also want to ask you the same question. I interview a lot of students for the podcast that are gearing for roles in ICU or ER or, to your point, L&D, and they all kind of have a preset notion in their head once they pass their NCLEX. But what advice do you have for them as it relates to assessing the demands of their own personalities and work styles versus the areas of the hospital that are very different from each other? And it's kind of what you said earlier, that L&D was fun, but you felt like at the end of the day it didn't suit your personality. So for these new students, right out of school, getting their NCLEX, they're ready to go, how do they assess their own personality and work styles that'll fit with where the demands are?
So, one thing that I will advise anybody that is currently in school is to be a nurse extern, because that kind of gives you exposure to understand how your threshold is in regards to triggers to stress, right? Because no matter if you're in the ER, ICU, med surge, rehab unit, you're going to have triggers that are going to be different. And so, how do you respond best to those to make sure, again, that I believe in it, that you present yourself in the best capacity so you can care for your patients? And so, I think if you have that exposure early on, and and taking your practicum very seriously, and understanding where you think you want to land and have some top one or two choices, I think that is the best approach. However, there are times where you can get in there and you're like, "This is not for me." Well, I can tell you 100% that an organization is that nurse leader is gonna sit down with you, and they're gonna map out a plan to get you where you need to best. I can't tell you how many times I've sat down with students or in orientation that they thought they wanted to be an L&D nurse, and they're like, "No, this is way too stressful for me. I need to go into a different space." And we moved them to a space that fits.
Mhm.
So the organization is going to be about how we can best use their talent to care for patients. And that's okay to raise your hand and say, "This is not meant for me," and that I need to go in a different direction, because they're going to invest in you to make sure that you are there and that they're retaining, because they have trust. You interviewed, you got this position, and so they wanna keep you. They believe you are part of the talent they wanted for their organization, and so they're gonna make sure that you are successful. But you have to advocate for yourself, and you have to raise your hand to let them know what you're feeling, what your plan is, and be very methodical on how you wanna approach it, because they will support you.
Yeah.
I think Yeah.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I just think that there's been many times, again, I always like to say this too, with when I used to sit with my new hires and new orientation, is I was a med surg nurse. So yes, I started in L&D, but then went to med surg. I believe in that. That is such a niche of patient care that is foundational for any trajectory of where you want to go in your career. And so if you want to go to critical care, it's only going to leverage you up. If you want to go into peri-op services, you already have those foundational needs. And of course, L&D, right?
Mhm.
So don't be afraid to sit in the med surg space. It is a specialty. It is something to be proud of. You take care of very diverse patients. Your skill of learning is going to be so complex that after a year, you're going to feel more accomplished. And, if you go into a more specialty service direction, you're going to have that foundational, confidence behind you.
Yeah, I love that, and that's for the listeners, this is really solid core advice because the great thing about clinicals is that you get to experience a lot of different things, you get to do time, and you get to basically mentor under professionals who have been in seat for some time, they know the space really well, and it's great advice. Take each clinical experience very seriously, and it gives you a chance to test drive any different direction in nursing, and keeping in mind that there's so many different avenues for nursing as well, that you're not just pigeonholed to just one thing or just something else. And I agree. I think it's great advice. I get a lot of questions from listeners about the FNP, which is the Master of Science in Nursing with a concentration in family nurse practitioner, and if it's quote worth it to have it, and if it really makes a difference. Our FNP is all online. So what do you think about that? And what's your advice for someone thinking about the FNP program?
That is so individualized. And I believe that if you wanted to get an advanced degree and you want to contribute at a different level, I think the F&P is a great route. It used to be that, I will tell you, even like 10 years ago, that the F&P route, that they would, people would graduate, they would go practice for a little bit, and then they would come back to the bedside. We're
Mhm.
not seeing that shift anymore. We're seeing F&Ps really being able to be working at their top of performance and autonomy, and working with physician partners to really support community healthcare needs. And so I think it's a great profession. It is very much needed right now. We know that there's a shortage of advanced practice nurses. And so with the shifts and the legislation of allowing them to do more and more, I think it's going to be an asset for our community, especially our rural communities, to be able to have this service at their fingertips.
Yeah, I love it. And I also think that the other great part about the FNP is that's yet another program that once you achieve licensure, you have so many different directions to go in. It's not just, to your point, it's not just the bedside. You have so many directions. We've been talking a lot about aesthetics. You that are, interested in aesthetics, and this is where, you have injections, face or to the body. Most of those injectors are nurse practitioners, and this is a new business direction. So, I mean, there's just limitless directions you can go with the FNP, and it explains why it's one of our more popular programs. So, want to get to kind of your top three tips to all of our nursing students at all levels about landing that great job and rising in the ranks as you did. What are your top three tips?
Okay. My top 3 tips are, first off, be your best. I can't tell you that again and again, is that you have to be present. When you're at work, there's so many competing life circumstances that we all feel every single day, but coming to work and being present and being a good team player is gonna help you really propel yourself. I also think it's really important to gauge in your physicians, right? Understand, build that partnership, build those relationships, because if you wanna go the leadership route, if you wanna go the educator route, you have the backing not only of your team, but your physician partners, which are key stakeholders in an organization. So I believe in those relationships and making sure that you have that. So I think that when you have relationships, are prepared, and that you present every day and you are presenting in a positive and you're contributing to the greater good, that is going to be showcased. So again, be your best, be present, develop those relationships with all of your key stakeholders. And I think the third thing is you got to state your intent. If you want growth and you want to be able to do that, that is how I was able to, really get to the position that I am, is because I stated my intent to my leaders. I want to grow. Give me a project. Let me stretch myself.
Mhm.
Right? And so showing your capability is going beyond your stretch goals of what you're currently doing. So even if you're a nurse at the bedside and you want to going into the educator route, how can you partner with your educator on the floor or in your organization to say, "Hey, let me help present and teach this cohort with you," or can I participate in the onboarding of these students? Can I be a preceptor? So I think when you state your intent, it allows your voice to be heard so people know the direction that you want to go. Oftentimes we are waiting for people to seek us out, and that's not how it works anymore. You got to state your intent of where your vision is.
Yeah, that's very, very true. I think that's actually outstanding advice, even if you're not interested in nursing. I think that's outstanding advice to give to anyone. You can't expect opportunities to just show up at your doorstep. You've got to get out there and put in the sweat equity and, make the connections. And most importantly, get the work done and show and prove that, you have your eyes set on a bigger prize. It's something that I think somewhere along the way, that's a message that gets lost sometimes, that there are definitely pockets of our working public that feel like the opportunities need to come find them and they're going to sit and wait for that. So I think that is solid, solid advice. So, last question on this particular topic for students that are not enrolled yet, but are very interested in learning more generally about nursing and all of its opportunities at all levels. What do you recommend?
So I think it's one of those things. I would just start that you need to do your research. You got to get exposure to say, so if you have family or friends that are in the healthcare, ask questions. Start to learn about that. Seek out, input of what does this profession do? There is so much that's happening even at the high school level, getting that exposure and that knowledge out to our high school students of what healthcare is all about. To
Mhm.
understand that this is a profession that is going to be one that you can maintain and live on, right? Because there's always going to be a need. And so it's just understanding what level within that healthcare profession that you want to go. But I think if you can get some exposure, to get some questions, to get some shadow experiences, I
Mhm.
think it's the best way. Don't take me for instance. When I was in high school, I knew I wanted to be a nurse since I was 9 years old. And so even back in the day when we had school at work, you could go to you could go, with your parent. I went to my pediatrician's office, and I had a love for nursing back then. And then, of course, in high school, my parents were not really proud of this moment, but I skipped school to go look at Northside and went to go see the babies in the L&D unit. Little did I know that we we have the babies at the bedside. There's no nursery anymore. So I lost that opportunity, and I also got in trouble for it. But the reality is my heart was there from the very beginning. And so it's important for you to seek out those opportunities, either friends, families, connections, to see if you can get those shadow experiences, get those questions addressed. Talk with a physician, talk with a nurse, ask them what the day of the shoes look like for their particular role, so you can start getting that feedback and creating that vision of what you want to do.
Oh, that's outstanding. Okay, I have to pause on the story. Now, we're talking about Atlanta, which you and I, we've had that discussion. We're both from Atlanta. We're talking about Atlanta, Georgia. So you skip school. Most normal people would go to Fort Lanier, Chattahoochee River, go shopping. No, you go to Northside Hospital to go look at babies. Okay, you are not normal.
Normal. It's been a part of me and so I did get in trouble, but my parents had to laugh because it was like, "That's what you did with your time?" And so, yeah, so never again. And then, of course, I went with a friend that also had a passion with nursing, and we both skipped home economics class, and then that's how the teacher called and was like, "This doesn't seem right that both of the students that are friends are not here."
Oh my God.
Um so yes, no, it is not normal, but that is truly the passion that I have for nursing and the caring that I have for people and patients. And so I just want to contribute to that. I want people to have the same love and passion that I have for nursing because it is so important. I say this all the time is that this is the one profession that you insert so many chapters into people's lives and that they
Mhm.
insert chapters in your lives. And I always ask them, how do they want their chapters to read? And so is it they want to have that compassion and that fulfillment? Because when you are that nurse or you're that healthcare provider or if you're that radiologist, you are contributing to that passion and that story for that patient and vice versa. And that's what keeps your cup full. That keeps you want to caring for patients for the future.
No, that's great. Well, then I won't bore you with the story. I skipped school one time in high school, one time, and I went out to lunch. We weren't supposed to leave campus, but I went out to lunch with 2 friends, and on my drive back to my high school, I passed my mom on the street.
That wasn't good either.
No, so yeah, so my one,
Yeah.
trip into, skipping school for one time, one day did not end well, so there you go.
It was a one and done for me too, so we are
Yeah,
definitely in the
no.
same boat.
It's no fun when the parents get mad. Alright. So what do you like to do in your spare time?
Oh my gosh. Well, I love to be a mom. So I have 2 active kids that are into sports. My son plays football, wrestling, lacrosse, and my daughter plays softball, and she is a fast pitch pitcher. They're just both very determined. So I live, obviously outside of work. I'm on the sidelines on the field supporting them, but I also love to read. And I think it allows me to have decompression. I also love to clean. I was that nurse that cleaned my patient's room before I even did my assessment. I felt
Nice.
like when we started the day clean, that you're gonna have a great day, and so I think part of it is I like to clean and have some decompression that way. But no, I love being with family and friends. I love to read, and I love being a mom and a wife, and I'm very proud of where we are as a family, and that's just important having that balance. So
I love that. So you're pretty much on the sidelines as that mom at pretty much every sport you can think of, because that's what it sounds like.
yes, yes. And I've had to make sure, it's an interesting environment to be in,
Yeah,
because people get very passionate about their kid, and it's even more stressful as a mom that is the pitcher's mom. So,
yeah.
because a lot depends on that person, but it is a team, and it's really cool to see them grow within their sport.
Yeah, and you can always carry a syringe around with you just in case. No, I'm kidding.
I
Totally.
know there's been plenty of times where there's been injuries that we've had to go out there and make sure that they're,
Yeah,
that everyone's good, but,
I love that.
yes.
I love that. So, last question I ask all of my guests, what kind of student were you in school?
I was the student, I this is no joke, I would go into college and my friend and group and I would go in and literally my friends would go to the back, they would make a right and I went to the left and I sat on the first row, um, and I was the one that raised my hand and asked questions. I was very engaged, I think that is so important when you have that passion when you ask questions and you're engaged and again being present, you learn so much. And so I was that nerd that sat in the front, raised my hand, and then after the classes were done, I kind of resumed with my friend group. But they laughed at me every single time. They were like, "Going to the front." I'm like, "Yep, going to the front. See you later."
Yeah, no, I
So
love it. I'm not surprised by that story, by the way, just not. That does not surprise me in the least. Well, if you are a nursing student, either just getting started or about to be finished and preparing for licensure, you just got a treasure trove of awesome advice and direction to prepare for that next step. Also, if you're interested, if you find April somewhere, chances are she's got maybe a ball cap on and ready to head to the fields. Either that or she's off to go check out babies. I don't know. I want to thank my guest, Executive Vice President of Nursing Operations for South College, April Mount. Thanks, April.
thank you.
Love it. That's going to wrap it up for us today with 10 campuses in 7 states, plus online and CBE. There's a pathway for you at South College. Hope you enjoyed this latest episode of Live from South College. The Live from South College podcast is a production from South College Marketing. Thanks for joining me. If you love it, give it some stars, and you can always send us feedback by emailing us at southcollegepodcast@south.edu. Have an awesome day and let your dreams find direction. See you next time.